Recording in progress.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It is 4:12. I will call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the City-Sponsored Special Events Committee. Number one is roll call. We are both here. Visually,
We're here.
So go for that. Public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none. We'll close public comment. Next is item 3, discussion about future city events. Who's kicking us off?
That's not us. That's actually an update from Chris.
Currently, there's no future city events planned out. We are working on some framework for a couple things.
Okay. And the farmers market is not a city event, but that is coming in June, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. June 9th, is it?
It's the first Sunday, June 7th.
Oh, June 7th. Okay, great. Okay.
When did that happen? That sounds great.
It's been in the works for 5-6 months. They started
people
Oh,
meeting
don't
with
know
us
about
several
it.
months ago, and it's kind of morphed from an original farmer's market to more of a farmer's market, peddler's fair, just kind of a variety of things, so. But they're interested in doing it on an ongoing basis, at least once a month. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Schuyler?
They're going to do the first Sunday of June, July, and then first Sunday of August. And instead of doing the first Sunday of September when it is Labor Day, they're going to do the last Sunday of August. So it'll be 4. They were looking to do a couple others, but couldn't get vendors lined up, so they started a little later. But from the meetings we've had, they're interested in renewing this yearly and that sort of thing. So a lot of interest and excitement on their part.
And expanding if successful.
Do they have promotional materials available that we could publicize for them?
I don't know, is it available yet? I know they have a website.
I've been on the website.
Yeah,
There's not much.
they have a website. There's not much on there, but we haven't received any other promotional materials.
It's On the Bone Market is the
Off
name
the
of.
Bone.
On the
Off the Bone.
Off the bone, off the bone, on the bone, off the bone. And somebody did forward me a flyer. This is when it was the May date. So I just said earlier today, if we can add it to the calendar, because a lot of people would love a farmer's market to come back, so.
Yeah.
The only other item, and I don't know if you received emails about a holy event, which would happen in the spring. It's too late for this year. A resident reached out and was interested in doing a holy event, which is a spring color festival. Some other cities have done either Holi or Diwali.
When you say
but it's
holy, you mean like
H-O-L-I.
H-O-L-I. Yeah, I thought you meant
Not holy as
H-O-L-Y
in-
at first.
yeah,
I'm
I
like,
mean-
okay.
that's why we asked.
Yes. So it's a spring celebration of color, and they usually have all the color flies around, and some cities have done color runs associated with it.
Yeah.
So just something to consider that we'll look into and then bring back at a later date.
I see an excuse to use my color, my popping smoke color handhelds. Have you seen these? It's like a small baton, and you do it, and it shoots colored smoke like flares.
Like a flashbang without the bang.
Yeah. And they come in all sorts of colors.
And
I've been
why-
wanting to get
And
some.
why do you have one of these?
Why don't you?
Okay.
Fair. Very
Fair.
popular at the gender reveal parties.
Ah,
Yeah, there you go.
Photographers use them. Anyways, all right. Is that is that the concluding item A?
yes.
All right, any public comment on item 3A? Seeing none, closing public comment. Item 3B, determine if any of the new proposed events will be added to the current schedule. I think there are none currently proposed, therefore this is moot for now. So public comment on this moot item 3B, seeing none, closing public comment, all right. Item 4, update, event update and discussion. Item A is actions taken since the last meeting.
Okay. I have a lot of action items, just to, I'm going to go quickly through them. So I'm going to just start with I'm going to start with general first, which is All of our street banners were
They
printed.
look beautiful.
They look really good. Listing all 4 of our events, that's Concerts in the Grove, Classic Car Show, 4th of July, and Hispanic Heritage. They're up for the year. The arterials are up, the downtown ones, they really look great. We also have a full-page ad similar to those banners coming out in Diablo Gazette, May issue, which I think just came out this afternoon, the digital version. And then next month, we'll do a Concerts in the Grove only, and then in September, we'll do a Hispanic Heritage. It'll be a full, a half, and a quarter. And I'm working with Contra Costa Live. This is, Chris has been on some of the emails with me, where they promote live events and they shoot a reminder out every week. So I'm thinking at least 8 times, and he's willing to offer us a nonprofit discount, which is great for that notification, and a special discount if we can pay with a credit card in advance, which I think we might be able to.
How much is it?
It's $505 for 8.
I think I can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, yeah. I mean, you have up to 30. This is
Our
$505.
credit cards are different from the
Right.
what our limits are, yeah.
Right. That's what I thought you were asking me. Yeah. And he has a huge audience. It's all over the county, and he puts us on his calendar. I mean, he's really a great guy. So I'll talk to you about that tomorrow. And then Concerts in the Grove. So just a couple of little changes this year. We have an MC through Primetime Entertainment that's going to be MCing this year. Doesn't mean that Councilmember Diaz and I can't still make announcements. Mayor Juan, if you want to get up and welcome everybody. But this person is like a professional radio personality and knows the bands very well, and will also be our check-in person from Primetime. So we won't have 2 people. We'll just have this one person arrive at 3, get the bands checked in. Hopefully we'll get, our first show is May 16th, so we'll get an advance, usually a week in advance, listing the band, which is Michael Jackson tribute band Foreverland.
Which
Couldn't
is
be more
really apropos
timely.
given the movie.
The Michael movie, and I watched This Is It last night too, which was really good. Anyway, the Ken Juare contract for sound and stage is all done okay. And stage banners are almost done. I'm going back and forth with our graphic designer on just one of the banners, one of the 3, and these are the 3 that hang from the stage. We're almost done. And so it'll go to the printer, and I'll let you know when those are ready. And then porta potties is the one question I have for Concerts in the Grove. So Republic Services is not able to provide those again this year. They're doing recycling, toters, and garbage and toters. And then we talked about the 3, we're going to try some of those. They're like 3-piece cardboard pop-up that's composting, garbage, and recycling.
I've seen those.
And I think it'll be nice to try. They're good for about 3 concerts, and then you have to, get rid of them. But we're not going to have porta potties this year. So I guess part of the discussion is, do we want to have porta potties this year? These were generally across the street in the Corral Plaza, or they could be next to our current restrooms, which do have long lines because you have thousands of people out there. And I just don't remember what the costs were.
Well, I mean, even on top of the cost, I would say, what is the requirement? Isn't there a requirement for X number of people versus X number of units?
I know there is when you have food vendors. There is. Without food vendors, I'm not sure specifically what the requirement is. We can look it up through the county, though.
Maybe we use that as a benchmark, even though, if it's not a requirement because there's no food, but if there were food,
What
it
the
would be
recommendation
X
is.
to this, then that's probably a good guideline.
Right.
How many did
Because
we
people are
have?
going to be bringing food.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How-
And they're buying it from our restaurants,
Yes.
too.
What did we have in the past? Do you recall?
Meaning,
Like
how
how many
many?
units, yeah.
How many people?
No, how many
No, how many
units? How many
restrooms?
restrooms?
Yeah, there's one handicapped and two regular.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, I could get you the company that they, paid for them through. I know we have somebody.
Yeah.
I just came in Marsh Creek Road and I happened to see a sign that said porta potties for events. I was like, what? So if we, but I think it would be nice, and honestly, it's really hard to cross Marsh Creek Road with all that traffic. If we could put
Put it by
them
the restrooms.
right next to the
Yeah.
restrooms, next to the restrooms, that would be great. So,
Well, we can do some investigating on pricing.
okay.
And then
See, it
we
would
can
be
determine what, yeah.
8 times.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And
either, if
instead of
there's a
you-
requirement, then we don't really have a choice, but if there's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And typically in the past, they've been static, right? They've just been left and serviced.
Yes, so concert is Saturday, serviced on Monday, and then locked up. Two, we locked them, we had a little code, so they were locked up, unlocked at the beginning of each concert, locked up at the end of each concert. That way, they get
And we'll see what the
serviced on
company
Monday.
feels like. Would they
Okay.
rather pick them up or, so yeah, we'll do some, yeah,
Okay, great.
we'll figure it out.
And then the only other update, again, I'm sorry, I'm still just on concerts, but, that's our biggie. The T-shirts for the PFC folks are ordered. They love it, we love it. Yanka is working on I've been trying to copy Chris on as much as I can, and she will need a credit card again to pay for those before we pick them up. So, and she did include that invoice, right? Aviva Designs, yeah. And so those should be ready in about another week or so. And then again, unlike that first year, PFC is going to take all of them, and middle school will take half, and the elementary school will take half, and then they're going to distribute them to their own volunteers. And I know we're also working on the buckets, right? We need
We
to,
have four of them currently. So
Oh,
we just got-
4?
Yeah,
yeah.
those are in
We
my
had more
office,
than
there's
4
4.
last year, no?
Last year was 4 as well.
Just 4? Oh.
Yes.
Because usually it's 3 parents with 3 or 4 or more kids. Okay. 4 it is. And we're working on the new wrap with this year's graphics, the new QR code. We're using Venmo, PayPal? No, PayPal.
You have the option to use
Okay.
either Venmo or PayPal through, yeah.
Excellent. So that's getting away from Gavilify. It's
Think-
going to be a lot easier.
yeah, that's nice. I think Venmo is PayPal.
Venmo, PayPal, yeah. And
Different brand.
so we're working on that, and then we need new tags for the lanyards that also have the new QR code on those. Our graphic designer's doing those. I think we still have the lanyards. I brought them over at the end of last year. They're blue, like your color of your shirt.
Might be in my office, I'll double
Will
check
you look?
tomorrow, yeah.
Okay, if not, we got them at Staples last time. And then, what else? Security. We've finalized the security agreement with SPACA, Lee Halverson. Yeah, and so it's usually 2 officers, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 4 to 9 PM, and they man we have to
Parking
ask Dr. Bradburn if we can use his parking lot again. I'll work on that. So we have like the cones there, and I think Councilmember Diaz takes care of those logistics. And then we provide them each week a list of who needs to park there or who's going to park there. And then they check the list, let that person in. It's the band, the promoter, volunteers, sometimes handicap parking, but SPACA, and we should line that up now. We'll also need them for Hispanic Heritage too. We did last year at the last minute, so I can fill you in on that. Is there anything else you can think of, Mayor Juan?
No, that's pretty,
That needs to be, and we're populated on the website. I'm working on the social media posts with our graphic designer. And then, like I showed you that calendar last year, I put a spreadsheet, so you'll have a little visual, like when to run each spot, as soon as those are done. So that'll be the next task at hand. Okay, oh, and I have the posters in my car. I picked them up Friday, just remind me, I put them in my trunk. So let me give you a stack before we depart today, and then I'll get the rest distributed around town. And if we've got any volunteers who want to do that besides me, that would be great too. Okay, so Memorial Day, the flyer is done for Memorial Day. I'll send it to you guys as soon as I also get the social media post. We do a couple of things as sort of a co-sponsor of this event. We donate the Grove. We donate maintenance time. If we, like, I think the flag, we raise the flag, lower the flag.
VFW does the flag, it's their flagpole.
No, that's not their flagpole. The one in the Grove is ours.
I thought you did this at the Circle, no?
We haven't done it in 3 years at the
Okay.
Circle. It's in the Grove, so just
easier
make
in the Grove,
sure
it's bigger.
to reconfirm that the Grove is reserved for that.
The Grove is reserved for that day.
Thank you. I thought you told me that. And we're borrowing chairs again from Clayton Community Church. And Mr. Gavidia, who's working with the VFW, is lining up volunteers for that. And John Stone does, the VFW does all the other arrangements, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get you that flyer and the social posts as soon as I have them. Okay, and then Classic Car Show, again, 6 shows this year instead of 4, 2 in June, 2 in July, 2 in August. We'll work on those banners after concerts kicks off. And then normally we hang those on either side of the parking lot fence. So the whole lineup of all the dates on one side, the sponsor banner on the other, and we usually put some barricades, and you'll have to check with maintenance on this when they do that, so that people don't start parking in the car show parking lot, which is next to the museum. And I'll have some social media posts for that too. And part of Ken Jory's contract includes that, okay. And then Chris, and moving on to 4th of July, Chris and Sarah Brinkman, our chair again this year, met for our second time for the 4th of July parade last week. And we would like Chuck Kohler, our World War II veteran, who lives right at Diamond Terrace, to be this year's Grand Marshal. And so I've left information for his family to contact me. I may write him a little note myself or see if I can get through to him. He is 102, but he was in the 4th of July parade last year, and I think he would just be awesome. It's our nation's 250th birthday, so our theme this year is Happy Birthday, America, and we're gonna make it like a big birthday party. Hoping to get some teaser ads out soon, maybe in May, saying, hey, think about participating, think about a float, think about something fun to do for 4th of July. And then the very last thing I have is Hispanic Heritage Day. We finally picked a date, Sunday, September 20th. We were told by most folks to choose a Sunday rather than a Saturday. We were competing with other events in the Bay Area. We've doubled the program from 12 to 2 to 12 to 4 p.m. And again, Ken Torre is part of, he's doing stage and sound. We've confirmed the mariachis. Chris did that, thank you. And I haven't heard back from Ballet Folklorica, but I'll try them again shortly. And then Prime Time, our entertainment provider, has booked a second act at the end of the day called Soucana, Soucana, as our closing act. And at some point, we should talk to El Ranchero or a food truck and maybe think about, do we want other vendors there? Maybe different kinds of food, maybe desserts, and again, September 20th is the date. So I think that's all. Chris, anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, and MD Productions, you met with MD Productions for 4th of July, right?
Yeah, he's going to send a new proposal based on what we talked about the other day.
Great, great. He's going to do our sound
Oh, nice.
engineering. And it'll be a little bit more, like last year, we're on Center Street. You couldn't hear any of the parade. He's going to have little speakers dispersed throughout the entire downtown.
Oh, that's nice.
So that no matter where you're standing, you can hear it and, know what's coming up next. And so I think it's going to be really terrific. And I think sponsorships are done for the packages.
Wait, hold on.
I'm sorry, I went to the next one. Yeah, sorry. That's it.
I just want to close it out.
And
appropriately.
actions for next, kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. 4B, public comment, seeing none, close. Okay, 5A.
Sorry, I jumped
Nope,
ahead.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I just want to make sure we get it all
Yep.
buttoned.
And then sponsorships, we're done with selling all the packages, which means all 4 events or 3 events or 2 events. But folks can still, if they say, you know what, I just want to sponsor the 4th of July or the Classic Car Show or the Hispanic Heritage, we can all still be selling those. And those are at $500 per event, or 2 events for $1,000, or 3 events for $1,500. So if you know of anybody who wants that, I just need to know so that I can get their logo and get it on, the banner and the materials. But we finished, the packages finished up at, I think we were at 43.5.
That's awesome.
43.5 for the year. And I would say the marketing, we're almost done, and the advertising, I kind of gave you an update already. So that's it.
43.5. Baller.
Yeah. Yeah. I was happy about that.
Thanks.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
That is, no, that's impressive.
I was looking at Chris. Anything else? Did I for?
Staff, anything?
No, I think we're
Okay.
good.
It's about to, you're going to see the activities in high gear for the city from now, well, actually since last weekend through the middle of October. So
Yeah.
this is your go time.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
All right.
And Chris, will you be at each of the concerts?
I am going to try to make as many concerts as I can.
Okay, great.
I
Yeah.
definitely will be at the first one.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to try to be at as many as I can.
Yeah, and I try to do that as well. We try to cover, and then if I can't, somebody else usually covers for me, because it is good to have one person from the city at least or more there, just to kind of make sure everything is flowing and the PFC folks have what they need. And I did invite them to come tonight, but I know they're busy moms.
Yeah.
Jacqueline has 6 children, right?
Who are the contacts at each of the PFCs this year? Is it
What's that?
The contacts for the,
It's still Jacqueline Price for
Okay.
the middle school and MJ Marjolin
Yeah.
for the elementary school. And I think, I forget Brian's last name, is kind of co-helping with her, MJ,
Okay.
because she's taken on some other responsibilities on the PFC. But they're going to make sure they have enough volunteers. They do Sign Up Genius and,
Nice.
and I said, just always let us know if you don't have enough volunteers, and we'll see if we can wrangle some volunteers to help you collect money. And just as a reminder, They collect all the donations at each concert. They alternate elementary school, middle school, and then we split those with them at the end of the year. So,
Yeah, that's great.
okay.
Excellent. All right.
The only other thing I had, I don't know if we're going to talk about future, but I do think we need a July meeting rather than wait till October, because Hispanic Heritage is like an event unto itself as well. Maybe just a touch.
Yeah, I think, especially during the activity, I think that makes sense. If we do, I mean, I thought we had set on quarterly,
Quarterly.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is April, May, June, July. Okay, so I think that would fall under 5B, additional actions, right? Well, it's not really sponsorships, but it's close enough.
And then usually October, our last meeting of the
It's like
year
a
would be the
closeout.
financials,
Yeah.
close it out, suggestions for next year.
Okay, so can we ask if you can come back with meeting dates that would work in the July timeframe? Probably the latter part of July, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's usually the last Monday.
Yeah.
I don't know what that falls on, but,
Okay,
okay.
all right, that is 5A and B. Public comment? None? Closing public comment, all right.
I think that's it.
think
That's
that's
all
it.
I have.
All right, well, now is adjournment. It is 4:38. Meeting adjourned.
All right,
Dude,
we did it. We
efficient.
did it. Well, that's why I have to type everything up.
Recording stopped. Paul, this is Dennis in the hearing room. I'm doing the 550 sound check now. I don't know how you're going to give me feedback, whether you're hearing me or not, but I'm going to test the other mics too. Committee member 1. Makes sense. Committee member 2. Committee member number 3. Committee member number 4. City manager. A player to be named later. And the public.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order for the Financial Sustainability Committee, April 27th, 6 PM. Roll call, please.
Okay. Chair Gavidia?
Here.
Let's see, committee member Stafford? Committee member Marlowe?
Thank you. Here,
Yeah,
in case you didn't hear me.
yeah. All right, I'm sorry, committee member Kaplan?
Here.
Very good. Committee member Mayhew?
Yes.
Very good. We do have a quorum. All members are present. Also with us is City Manager Loftus. And I'm going to be playing two roles in tonight's show, one of the clerk as well as the staff. So bear with me while I switch hats. So next up is, do you want to announce it, Chair?
Oh, let's see, do we have any public comment here today?
Does not appear that we have any slips in the bin, so.
Seeing none, we will close public comment.
Okay.
Next item is approve the minutes from December 1st.
I move approval.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it unanimously.
All right, now we move to item 4, discussion items, and we'll go A first.
So discussion item A is a review of the third quarter contract summary report. Just let me announce for the public and those watching either real live or on Memorex that there are, Brian, thank you for laughing. Thank you. I was counting on you, brother. The recordings that we normally put with the presentations and all that is not available, so you'll have to be following along. This is an attachment in the staff report listing out the contracts for the third quarter that are active contracts. And it is in the packet if you want to refer to that at some point as you're viewing. So, sorry, thank you for that, accepting that joke. This has been a discussion that some committee members had been interested in having in the past. I'm happy to answer any questions about the report itself. If you have any, no action is required on this. This was just simply for you to review, no action required.
It's my understanding that a few of these items overlap where one contract is expiring, overlapping the term of a new contract beginning. Could you just kind of point out which ones are doing that?
Sure, happy to do so. As you can well imagine, it most commonly happens with subscriptions. So the ones I'll talk about first are toward the bottom of the page. You're probably aware that we signed a contract with Civic Plus to provide an overhaul of our entire web page to make it compliant with current ADA regulations, as well as adding a number of e-commerce functions and community communications functions. So that contract is listed in there at $135,000, which includes both the setup as well as the first year of the subscription itself. But what's going to be going away, to your point, Howard, is that the Granicus contract is going away. The NeoGov contract will be going away as a result of this particular contract.
So it'd be fair to say on a go-forward basis, this, we could reduce the 1.5 million by 90,000 and a steady state model would be reflected.
I think that would be true, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, the expenses for ongoing Civic Plus are less than that. So it's about $75,000 ongoing after the initial setup fees. There's an escalator in there too, so don't look for $75,000 next year. But that's correct. Any other questions? Okay.
Move on to the next item.
Move on to the next item. This was also an item of interest to members of the committee. This is looking at the latest version of the annual comprehensive financial report prepared by Chauvin and Associates for the year ending June 30 of 2025. The entire audit was brought to the council with a presentation by the auditor, Mr. Chauvin, back in March. And in this packet, the entire the entire audit is present in the packet as well for your review. I'd be able to answer questions if you have any.
Give me, I got plenty.
Go, yeah.
Yeah, go, Brian, this one's yours.
You can start, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a little indulgence thing, because I've got not just a list of them, but some other things I'm going to go through.
For it.
I want to start with, this audit is signed February 24, right? Generally speaking, by principle, they're either sign it when it's presented to the board or soon thereafter. We asked for a copy in November. 3 months later, it never got to us first, and we never got it to review. So the comments I'm going to make tonight could have been made in a draft and gone away. But instead, we'll do it here and have a discussion. The good news component of it, I found a lot less mistakes than I found last year. The bad news component is I continue to find mistakes. They come in several forms. Some will be my opinion of some of the things that are written. In my training, this is your presentation to your investors. And in your presentation to your investors, you have to be clear, you have to be concise, and you have to be factual. I find a lot of areas in there where there's wording that this is my most subjective part. There's wording that's just sort of, well, it could be nice, or it would, look groovy or something like that. Goes with the Memorex. So that's one. Two, there's some technical issues. The very first one and most obvious one is some of the 2024 numbers and the 2024 numbers in here don't line up. And it affects the fund balance starting, and it's on page 20. If you look at the 2024 numbers, going into the expenses, going down to the fund balance, the delta's only $30,000, but that doesn't matter. The very first test of your audit, the very first thing you do in QA is knock off all of your prior year numbers and make sure they match. Every bloody one of them. This one is in a major component of it right up front in your MD&A. Therefore, it raises an entire series of issues. Could have been 30,000, could have been 30 million. Something missed in the Q&A. So that's the first part of it. Then another one is, I'm going to go to this is the sort of the subjective pieces of it. And I'm just going through the MD&As for a minute. I'm just starting like at random, page 19. Over time, net position may serve as an indicator. That's probably true. Net position is an indicator, right? I mean, it can't be anything else. But that's just, you get into, there's a sentence down here, and there's a couple of pretty icky, awkward ones I'll get to. Towards the bottom of page 19, total liabilities related to governmental activity. I assume everybody uses the yellow book, the blue book format?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons the sentences are the way they are. The way the blue book is written, blue book is the standard we use for government audits. And in the MD&As, there's sentences in there that say revenue went up because revenue went up, expenses went down because expenses went down, and expenses went down because the different expenses went down. Okay, that's what they tell us to do. They also tell us not to follow the blue book exactly the way they write it, but we all do it, because that way you get it through the auditors. But total liabilities related to governmental activities increased by $419,000. Okay, that ties. Due to decreases in retirement plan liabilities. Okay, I know, I can see the retirement plan, but in it, you can't increase your liabilities due to a decrease in the liability. There's a couple of other examples I'll get to. I'll use 22 as an example. Public safety expenditures increased, suggesting a steady investment in law enforcement and emergency services. Okay, it might not. You could be more, positive about what you're doing with it. It's kind of an interesting question. Your general government expenses went down significantly and the other expenses went up. So it's very interesting. What the real question is, why did general government expenses go down so much? How could you afford to knock off $1 million and put it somewhere else? Y'all only got 26 people. So anyway, then it goes on to say that that's suggesting, indicating a relatively another one, public works spending was higher in 2025, indicating a relatively stable investment in infrastructure. Again, is another one is suggesting a consistent focus on community and leisure. This goes into, it either is or is. Again, remember your investors reading this. Are you suggesting that you have it, or did you do it? And again, this is not the financial part of it, but the MD&A is what the investor reads. Overall, the budget adjustments for 2025 indicate strong increases in public safety operations and public works, reflecting potential administrative growth and infrastructure investments. I don't know how the second part of the sentence matches the first, but again, you see what I mean? Why would an adjustment in public safety and public works indicate administrative growth? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that would have been all knocked out of mine. But I had much bigger staff to deal with. And again, this is just, I have going to page 23 here. This is more gets more technical now. It says here, and we're talking about unassigned fund balance. We'll get to that one in a minute. May serve as useful to measure the net resources available for discretionary use. What's expendable assets, as my boss always used to ask me, and represent a portion of the fund balance which has not yet been limited to use for a particular purpose by either an external party, the city itself, okay, external is legal, the city itself, which is the council, or a group or individual has been delegated authority to assign resources for a particular purpose by the city council. In reading your budget rules, I think it's page 56 or something, that says nothing about outside individuals, and I don't believe there's any general law in the state of California that allows outside individuals to designate the use of city funds that is not directly approved by the city council. I would question this, and the other one will get to, yeah, the same thing's on page 55, and then 3. And then the other one is your budget changes. And this, again, gets technical. You adopted a 2-year budget, right?
This particular audit is prior to the adoption of the 2-year budget.
Wasn't the 25 budget wasn't in the?
26 is year 1 and 27
Okay.
is year 2.
Then that makes sense. Then he gets away with that one. So then the rules that govern the 27 audit, well, it should be mentioned in the MD&A that the rules and procedures changed because this is released in the 26 year, right? So subsequent event, it's a very important subsequent event. So it probably should have been listed as a subsequent grant, and the auditor should have put it in. But from a very technical standpoint, that one you get away, because it didn't look like the rules were consistent with what you did. Okay, that takes care of the main ones. The main ones, and again, I don't want answers to them, but I don't believe an outside group can designate what happens to the, and your rules basically say it's the city manager or the assistant city manager who could have budgetary authority to do things and to designate. But the board has to go through anything that's restricted by your rules as the board level, so. Let's see. There is a, oh, it's on page 17 it starts. This gets to be another one. Let's see. And it's a textbook definition. I just don't believe it's completely true. Enterprise activities include Endeavor Hall activities. Unlike government services, these services are fully supported by charges paid by users. That statement in and of itself is incorrect. Go to your Endeavor Hall and you will find that the cost of Endeavor Hall was not totally supported by users. You made $21,000 in revenue. You said $57,000 or $70,000 in expense, came up with a $50,000 deficit. Therefore, it could not have been totally supported by user. It is intended to be supported by charges and fees assessed to users, including depreciation. That's textbook GAAP, okay? But you can't say that it is, because it was not. And if you look at it, Endeavor Hall has no assets. It has no cash. Therefore, in and of itself, as an enterprise, it has only a fixed asset, which will depreciate. One more little nitpicky one. Oh, actually, there's several more little nitpicky ones, but this, again, is technical. Page 56. Sorry to jump around so much, but audits do that. They have 92 schedules that jump all over the place. No, the book, the actual document. Anyway, property taxes and special assessments. Middle paragraph says that the population valuations established by the assessor county in County of Monterey. Obviously, this guy worked in Monterey County and did other work in Monterey County, and he didn't scrub his document. The good news is he made the same mistake last year. So you know, it was good last year, it's good now. Anyway, that again goes to the Q&A component. The auditor has a responsibility, and you have a responsibility to scrub this thing for obvious errors. Let's see, we're getting down there now. Endeavor Hall, we got that one. I have a question. I guess then I thought the rules didn't allow this, but I'm looking at, there's a comment here that your, where was it? There was a comment that the budget came, the adjusted budget. Okay, the original deficit, I'm on page 25 of the document. Originally you had a $552,000 deficit. But in the end, it changed to 641. That would be the deficit was greater than the budget itself. So your expenses actually exceeded the budgeted expenses. And I know in the schedule back here, it shows it. Yeah. actual stuff. There we go. Now, you don't amend budgets, but in my rules and in the rules I read, you shouldn't be able to exceed the budget. And now, the city manager can make adjustments within this area to keep the line items or the departments. Yeah, our rules would have been that you can't change the departments. But the city, our CEO would have been able to adjust within the ranges, as long as you stay within a fund. In this case, it missed by 10%. That's a big miss. And especially when you've got a beginning statement that says the city's finances remain strong, and you missed the original budget, the adjusted budget by 10%. That's a tough one to miss. And again, it goes back to the original part of the document says that your resources are strong, you do have good reserves. I mean, it's 1-to-1. If I didn't read this document, I'd be applauding you for it. But the simple fact is, you get in and you miss the expense budget by 10%, and it's hard to do. Because once you've got payrolls and contracts, you just keep repeating it, rinse, repeat, and done every month. So it's pretty easy to track it. So that one's a tough one. Oh, anyway, the question was, how by your rules can the expense actually end up higher than the budget? And how did the auditor not comment on the expense being higher than the budget?
Can I butt in just for a minute here?
Yeah, you can
So
have a minute.
What I have a hard time understanding is why you do an adjusted or revised budget. It would seem to me, you start the year with a budget, and at the end of the year, you look at variances to that original budget. And when you interject a mid-year change and adopted budget, you kind of lose track of just what your variance was because you're changing the numbers. And so I don't understand why that convention, if it is a general convention, takes place. You don't just do an annual budget variance analysis.
Yeah. I think it varies greatly, Howard, by jurisdiction. Every jurisdiction I've worked in adjusts the budget practically at every single Board of Supervisors meeting by adding revenue to meet a new expense, for example. And so that is very common where the actual budget is moving throughout the year, in a sense really to address some of what Brian is raising in terms of how do you make sure that you're not in a position come June 30 for you to be 10, 8, 9, 7% out of whack with the budgeted expenditures. So when you're able to realize revenue to cover an expense, you do that basically on a weekly basis throughout the year. Tracking those becomes the biggest task of a set of budget analysts in most county jurisdictions, in the county executive office or county administrator's office. And they're the ones tracking all of those and making sure they all tie and foot. So I think that's the practical experience a lot of jurisdictions deal with. We're much smaller than that, and so a mid-year budget adjustment does seem warranted. And I think there have been, I'm not going to say it. It is a process, but I mean, to your point, it does raise the question about how do you know what's what and what's new money versus old money in terms of what you're counting. So your point's well taken.
I would just prefer, from my perspective, maybe at the mid-year to do a variance analysis mid-year, but one that identified timing differences
Yep.
as opposed to actual budget changes and then discuss the budget changes. But I'm not in that world, so
okay.
I trust what you're saying.
I think it's important to note, too, that you know, this year that we're in currently is a perfect example that budgets aren't a static number. There is a constant ebb and flow. There's a variety of agencies that we receive revenue from. We anticipate that revenue early. We build the budget. We get notifications sometime during the year for whatever reason that revenue is going to drop. It could be sales tax, could be property tax, could be some of the other funds that we receive money from. And so we want to make sure that when we have that information, we provide that information publicly into the council to say revenue dropped by, I'm making a number up, $200,000. Now we need to show that adjustment on the other side. Now, could you go throughout the whole year and just keep it in your head and say, we know we're 200 light, so we need to not spend 200? That's an approach, but we like to daylight that early so that we can make those adjustments moving forward throughout the year. It may affect a project. It may affect a whole host of things that may be tied to that anticipated revenue that we're not going to see the full amount. It may be reduced for whatever reason. So that's one of the reasons we do the mid-year. And to me, it's a more transparent way of kind of going through the year, to provide the information at the mid-year when we have it, make those adjustments, make it known. Sometimes we're doing better, sometimes we're not. And you know, from the staff level too, what it does is with all of our department heads having those conversations, looking at their expenses year to date, you know, it's really difficult too. And coming from government, you don't have the same expenditure month after month. There's one month when you're going to do massive purchasing. Maybe you're buying fleet. Maybe you're buying, you know, PD has some contracts coming up in the new year that are going to grow, right? So spending recreation departments, ebb and flow depending on the time of year and what's happening, big expenditures occur. So you adjust those at the mid-year depending on where you are so that you are staying within your means, but you're also sharing that perspective back to the council and the other bodies and, of course, to the general public so they know kind of financially where we're headed and where we're going to go.
Okay, thank you.
And let me be clear, a budget's a goal, it's a target. You're not supposed to hit the budget anyway, right? And if you do, you're doing what, well, when I first started, I worked for a certain agency, and every month the executive would walk in and give me a new budget sheet to sign off on and amend the budget. And why would we do that? Because certain people had never, ever actually been out of budget. So they simply budgeted the actual every month. And before I got to the first audit, I told them we couldn't do that anymore. And then it turned out that there were funds that we were doing to other agencies, and they were letting them adjust their budgets. So I had this lot of money, having everybody make their own adjustments up every month. Well, I stopped it, and it took years and years and years to undo the damage. So a budget is a target. I certainly understand it. I appreciate it. Believe me, I used to teach a class in program budgeting. So he's in the back of USC. So my point isn't that that the budget got adjusted. I'm fine with that. I'm not. It's not even that you had some departments come in and some departments cut. That's cool too. The point is, by the rules, and pardon me for just a moment, you're not allowed to exceed a budget, the fund number. And yet, by the numbers in this audit, you did it a million times. And your rules say you can't. So the theory is, somehow that had to be, the statement that, that this is within budget, it isn't right. That's not correct. And the statement that, that you only had this little deficit, that's not the point of the deficit. The point is, it shouldn't have been the way it was done, and that's something you should correct, and it's something the auditor should have caught. And I've got two more things, maybe three. Again, I would have done all this just in writing, and you send it to me if you just sent the draft, but, in clarity. A couple of things in general. I noticed there's no GAN test. You don't have an audited GAN test?
We did, it happens after this process, which was quite strange to me too.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So for those not up on what the GAN is, it's the appropriation limit calculation that is done each year to make sure, and just to put anybody's like curiosity aside for a second, is like we clear the GAN limit by like several light years. Literally about $8 million we're under the GAN limit. So we're quite fine here in the city of Clayton in terms of that. But I will say there was a finding, a determination that there was two numbers that were reversed.
I remember that, yeah.
And so you might remember that 2 weeks ago at the city council meeting, as a result of that audit, I brought revised GAN limit calculation for both 24, 25, and then because that number was wrong, it also affected my 25, 26 number. So we revised both of those at a city council meeting about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, something like that.
And so once that's done, then that should be a tested number in your audit in the future.
Yeah, and again, I was somewhat surprised it was done outside the audit
It
timing.
actually says to do it. So, okay. What's your, going to your investment note for a minute. It's note 3, right? Why is it always note 3? Oh, while I'm here on one page, I think it's 54, and I saw it in the back. Are your OPEB obligations through PERS?
Yes.
And they're totally, it says here they're totally unfunded?
Actually, I don't even remember the total for the OPEB liability.
554, give or take a buck or two.
How much?
554,000, give or take a
554,
buck or
okay,
two?
that sounds right. Yeah, so while we cover the unfunded liability on the actual pension benefits itself, we pay in advance to not incur any financing charges on that each year. We have not dealt with the OPEB liability as a separate issue.
You're funding it on a pay-go basis.
Pay-go, exactly.
The audit doesn't quite say it that way, and maybe your new audit, that should be cleared up, because there's a sentence back there that says, none of this is funded, which I was surprised because it shows a liability.
Right.
And it shows a beginning balance and an ending balance. A PERS, beginning balance is money.
Yeah, and it should note it as pay-as-you-go.
You're doing it on a pay-go basis. Okay, that really, okay, I wasn't. And one other thing, I didn't, and you have a sort of self-insurance kind of thingy-ish, but I don't see an IBNR recorded in any of the liabilities. Incurred but not reported for, unrecorded claims or things like that.
Yeah, so we do have a separate entity, a pooling authority that we're a part of on all of our GL, general liability for those playing at home.
Curbs, gutters, trips and falls.
Trips and falls, all the tree branches, all the bad things that happen when you own city property. So it's a separately funded program through a pooling authority with other
Right.
local cities. And it is, I guess I'm surprised it's not noted anywhere in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back there, it did not note any restricted liability for incurred but not reported claims. You must have a list of claims, there has to be an IBNR associated with it. I know they record it, and it could be because it's considered trust and agency that they didn't pay any attention to it, because, what was it, 54 or something like that, said we can't do trust and agencies anymore, so.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another question.
Okay.
Then I got two more, I think, and then that's it. On the footnote there, I'm on page 61. I'll read this. I do not question this statement. I just question it's not completely accurate to the way you handle money. It says the city's practice is to buy and hold investments until maturity dates. Consequently, city investments are carried at fair value. The reason I ask that is because you primarily invest in CAMP and UBS. You invest in funds in both of those, and I can promise you those funds are not buy and hold funds. They're actively traded. So that doesn't mean,
No. Yeah.
well, CAMP
No.
is. CAMP is actively traded.
Camp is actively traded, but UBS is not. UBS is in treasuries
But
exclusively.
it is in the treasury fund, though,
It's
right?
traded, but it's a managed account, Brian, where there's a restriction on what can and can't be done.
Yes, right, but
So
it doesn't mean they can't be, again,
they can't go out, so they can't go out 10 years.
right?
What's the maximum we set?
That's not buy and hold, though. Buy and hold means you buy a security and hold it absent cash flow or other changes. That is the general code of the state of California, and I completely agree with it. I just say your intent is buy and hold, but these two funds, you do not manage them that way, and certainly not CAMP, and not LAIF. LAIF exchanges security. If LAIF gets a,
Leif does.
LAIF will take profits on them all the time. So
Fair.
yeah, my
and-
point would be, the
those two.
intent is for the funds you manage to be on a buy and hold status, which would be, but you have funds they actively manage within those funds.
Okay.
I think that's fair. The UBS, they're rolling T-bills.
Yes.
So, but
And
theoretically,
laddered,
could they trade, although that's not really the instructions we have on file with them, but theoretically, could they? And it just depends on what we signed in the contract
Yes.
and what the asset manager says.
Says. And does.
Yeah, I got the IBNR off the risk management thing, and I just didn't see it.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, that's a cleanup, and again, it's one of the things the
Okay.
auditors, they should have looked into what those funds are and realized they're not buy and hold funds. Okay, then, getting back to, I'm going back to page 97, and this is my last.
Page 97
Point.
of the document, right?
And in here, starting with special revenue funds, then going through Oakhurst special revenue, I'm going through the fund balance one. I'm going to skip all the assets and liabilities because it would be the same thing, same questions on all of them. But as we go through these, you look at, your stormwater fund is an assessment fund, which, okay, I
Upside
know
down.
what assessments are. The fund itself is negative.
Yeah.
It has $261. Now, fund balance is a tricky thing, and to the uninitiated, it doesn't really even mean fund balance. But cash is king, and cash has to back up what you call fund balance or net available assets. In this instance, $73,000 negative with $261 to back it up, and I'm not taking out any AP stuff that has to come off the top on current liabilities. Gas tax fund is almost 1-to-1, 549 versus 531. That one's good. Your other gas tax is the same thing, 960 to 960 in cash. So, and the same thing for your Grove. Oakhurst is $35,000 in the hole. It has $9,000 to back it up.
And that's a key one to remember, that the folks in the geological hazard assessment district assess themselves extra dollars to not only make that not negative, but to have additional money to do investing in the
And that should
infrastructure.
be in a subsequent note.
Yeah.
That's the reason for these audits.
Yeah, and that happened after the close of this fiscal year, so that reassessment. So it happened in 2026.
Now, hitting close to me, the neighborhood lighting assessment has $92,000 in the hole and no money. Zippity-doo-dah.
Yep. Part of what's happening there now that's changing dramatically, that particular fund, is the transition to LED lighting for all of the lighting has changed our M&O considerably on that particular fund. I'm not saying that we're going to be, in positive territory anywhere soon, but that's definitely moving the needle considerably with the change in M&O.
Can I assume the grants fund itself, which is going to something else? The 204 in, the 204 out?
Yeah, we transfer that money into our police department, actually, in that particular fund. So that's the SLESA-funded grant that we receive.
Okay. Then you got the Community Facilities District, which is a tie, that's equaled. The Community Development Impact Fees, it's close enough, 508 to 507, good enough. Energy Conservation Assistance Fund is in the hole, $418,000 and has zero cash. Do you have some sort of grant receivable or something here that's?
I'd have to go back and even look exactly what this fund is the
Yeah.
fund for.
Yeah, I looked it up a couple times myself.
Yeah, did you walk away edified with the definition?
No,
Okay.
I read the definition that is for energy conservation projects. And
Yeah.
I just assumed that the grant that's associated with this is not here.
Yeah.
Again, every one of these, and there's several, right? We go through there, we get to your capital improvements fund that seems to have plenty of money. That's good. 1.5 million to 577, so that's great. Every one of these with negatives, the auditor should have wanted a means of dealing with them because you can't budget to deficits. You have to have a balance. And these negatives theoretically are all now covered by the general fund, but it's not shown anywhere. So, I mean, it is just so many things in here that just should have been caught. And I just don't know how they weren't. I'm sorry, I want to ask one last question. There's funds back here. I don't know what they're, deposit funds, the financing authority I get. There's a bunch of them that says that they're not budgeted.
118 in the document.
Yeah, about 118 and the last funds in here, I think they're what did you call them?
So a lot of these funds are, I can speak to the middle school one, where we've basically paid that off. We just haven't made the fund go away yet.
Okay.
And so Clayton Financing Authority, you noted already. And then custodial funds are just monies we're
Yeah, the custodial funds.
Holding on
That's-
deposits, right? So I think those are funds on deposit for various projects. That's where we would keep those funds.
But by the law of the state of California, you can't use anything unless appropriated by the board. You
Correct.
can't just write a check to them.
No, it would, but we would have authority on a deposit to refund a deposit, unused portion of a deposit.
By the issuing documents?
Yes,
That might
It's-
be, and the documents
yes.
themselves would be approved by the board, therefore.
correct.
The authority,
They would-
okay.
They would follow from that, yep.
There's a statement that they were unbudgeted just threw me way off, because there's no such thing as unappropriated money in the state of
I
California.
mean, we regularly take, let's say, large deposits from a developer for future expenditures, and we draw that down through costs, right?
You
know what
draw
I-
your costs off the deposit, that's the,
That's it. And
yeah,
when you
that's the
hand-
receivable.
Then you have the
Then you
residuals.
refund, you do it by project, or do you do it by fund? You do a fund for a whole bunch of projects?
Well, we do it by project.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
open a new account for each project?
Correct.
It's clean.
Yeah.
If you had a lot of projects, it'd be annoying, but.
We are not a large number of project kind of jurisdiction. A few choice ones.
I'm going to say, if, I would have been happy to make these comments, a long time ago, and I didn't come out here I mean, you do have a financially sound document, but the problem is this document doesn't show what's what I'm looking for, soundness?
Attention to detail.
Well,
I
the
believe
documents.
that's the simplest way to put it.
No, I'm
It's
saying it-
huge attention, lack of attention to detail.
Because there's so many mistakes in here and so many errors from what I think is a professional audit standpoint, it covers up the fact that if you were to read this and go through it, you would have very, very serious doubts as to the integrity of the things that you're actually achieving, which is a relatively sound and solid set of books. The numbers would be good if it weren't for... So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Let's see. I still am going to ask, you moved $1 million out of... Sorry. You moved $1 million out of administration and moved it to other parts of your operations.
Give me a page.
And it's just page 20. $1.2 million out of general government and spread it all throughout, which is a very nice thing for you to do. How the heck could you afford it? Because it says in your for 25, you had $2.6 million in general government expenses. In 24, you had 3.8. Those numbers, actually, the top one doesn't actually tie to the 24 number, but it's only off by 30,000. Yeah. But from a materiality standpoint, just add or subtract 30,000. These numbers don't exactly match, but the bottom line is close enough, off by 30,000. But the deltas here, the change from 3.8 to 2.6, you guys are miracle workers. And then you spread it out to all your other departments, which is, again, very generous of you. How the heck could you do that? That's $1 million.
It is, and I think there are a variety of reasons for that, and I think some of them come to bear with what you see as ending fund balances in some of those years where where we have a negative fund balance at the end of a year, and I think we might be overmoving some funds in that regard. I think there's still a fair amount of work to be done, and we're going to talk about that more as we talk about 26 and 27. This is a budget that is still in need of additional work and effort in order to have it fully represent the planning that you're talking about. What a budget does is really present a plan. I think it's a work in progress. So I wouldn't stand, this is obviously what the auditor shows in the rearview mirror for 25. But that probably was probably not the strategy. That was.
You mean it wasn't intentional?
It was not probably intentional. So I think I've found enough things that are not intentional in this organization, in this budget, that I think that may be a part of the explanation for that. And I'll leave it there for the moment.
Good enough by me. With that, thank you. I'm sorry, guys.
No, don't apologize. Anyone else? Mr. Stratford, it's past 6:40. Are you?
No, I'm fine. I'm staying.
Okay.
Yeah, we have one more item.
Okay.
I'm locked
Locked
in.
in. Okay. All right. So if there's no more on this, we don't really need any more discussion. Okay. So we move on to
our final item of the evening, which is to really talk through a little bit more about 26, where we are, and 27, mostly to think through a number of budget adjustments that the staff has proposed, based originally on our belief that things were not needed to be adjusted, just in general. But then the council also was thinking through a number of one-time expenditures that they wanted to add to the 27 budget, and as well as some additional ongoing expenses, but really utilizing the general fund reserve as the funding source for those one-time expenditures. So staff went and made a number of those adjustments, but we'll talk about 26 first. I think that's going to be really key. And again, I apologize for not being able to get this up on display. Hopefully you can see it in your packet. But what I'm looking at now is the presentation That's attached to item number 3 with the slide deck. And in particular, I'm looking at slide number 3 of that deck, which has a summary, a budget summary of the adjusted general fund budget. One of the things that, just to make it plain, is that at this point, on June 30th, we're expecting to be a little bit over $800,000 in the red. And I'm going to go into the details about how we got to that number, but I just want to stipulate that from the start, that that's where we believe we're going to be, and that's on net. So that we're saving some monies in some places, and I'll go over those, and we're spending considerably more in other areas, and I'll go over those. But I think, all in all, what we're looking at from the adjusted budget, and remember we made the adjustments back in November, our salary and benefit line items only increased by about $90,000. And our salary or services and supplies budget increased by about $200,000. What the real story here is that we lost $500,000 in revenue that we had budgeted, that we learned after the budget was adjusted in November, that we were not going to get $500,000 in revenue, and that's a significant number for the city of Clayton, as it would be for any city, but particularly for the city of Clayton. That's about 8% of our general fund. So that's a significant amount. If you go to the next slide, slide 4.
Is there an explanation for that
Yeah.
shortage on the 500,000?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now, Howard.
Okay.
On slide 4, we break down what those variances are. So at the top is the loss of $175,000 that we thought we were going to get. We thought we were going to get $495,000, and we only brought in $320,000 on the RPTTF. Now, what is that? It's a great acronym for it's really the money that the county had on account for the ending and winding down of the successor agency. And so this was revenue coming back to the city for administrative work, basically, to wind down the successor agency to the RDAs. We closed the RDA this year, and so that is the major reason why that funding dropped and will go to 0 next year. I can say the prior year, real quick, we had budgeted $495,000 for 26 for that. The prior year, we had made over $600,000 in that from RPTTF. So we did budget lower, knowing it was going to get cut some. We didn't know by how much. When we got the letter at the very end of December, we were shocked, frankly, that it decreased that much.
So
Go ahead.
doesn't that mean that there is a significant reduction in the administrative services work that needed to be done? Because that's what you were getting the money for, and you don't have to do that anymore.
One would think, but in reality, that money was not just administrative funds for direct services. It was really set aside, and it was collected as an increment on each of those properties that was part of the RDA. And so that money was taken and sequestered. So it wasn't fee for service per se. It really was about making the city whole as well for the increment on those properties that continued to develop or continued after the 2012 ending of the RDAs. So it was a variety of things. They called it administrative funding, but it was not a dollar for dollar kind of thing. So do we have $175,000 less or $200,000 less or $600,000 less in administrative? Absolutely not. Yeah, that wasn't how that worked. Another decrease is $35,000 in well water income that we had collected from our water wells. that are no longer being purchased. And then another one is a
Well,
series.
Before we go past the water well,
Yeah.
I always like to drill down on the water well
I
because
heard that. That was very good of you to note that little joke there.
the, the water well is like a security access to water should the water district have a problem sometime. And no, it's.
I never
in
heard that
my
definition of
mind's
it.
eye. Anyhow, the point is, do you know whether you're depleting the aquifer or not?
There is no water being pumped out of those wells right now at all. That's why we have no revenue. And so
So in a wet year, people don't pull on their wells, and then you don't get the revenue from selling the water. When, over a 10-year period, has the water table declined? Are you depleting the groundwater?
no,
No, this is one singular well.
singular well.
That there is a local business that was leasing the use of that well for $30,000 a year. They have decided to run strictly off of Contra Costa water versus using that one well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same question, was their draw on that well being recharged naturally?
I'm going to make a point of order. That's really off topic.
Yeah.
We're a finance committee. You're getting into environmentals there. That let's focus on what needs to be focused on, which is these numbers.
We lost
and
the
how-
revenue.
Yeah, we lost the revenue. That's what the topic is.
Yeah. If you want to have a water policy discussion
Yeah.
in the parking lot, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The next item is one that kind of to the point that Brian was making in his identification of some issues in the audit and some of those funds that are upside down. So we have typically taken a fiduciary transfer for our administrative costs from the various funds on a prorated basis. And this year, we already knew we were no longer going to be able to do that with the successor agency for those other administrative costs that weren't covered by the RPTTF. But we also made a decision, I think a smart decision, to no longer take a fiduciary fund transfer from streetlights and stormwater that were already upside down. And so we chose not to take money from them. That was about 65,000 of the 289,000 you see here between those two funds that we had normally been billing for administrative costs. But in good conscience, knowing that at the end of the day, that if those funds remained unbalanced, that it was going to be general fund dollars that were going to have to backstop those if we had to provide maintenance and operations, for example, for any of those. So rather than just continuing to take money out of somebody's pocket and putting it into the general fund pocket, we made a decision not to do that this year.
How much did you say that was, Dennis?
It was between the two smaller funds, it was about $65,000 we were taking in administrative charges for those.
Okay, and then the rest of it?
The rest of it was around the successor agency.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, with the closing of the successor agency, there are no more expenses that are going to occur there. We've stopped billing to that because we actually closed that out in late fall. So we stopped. So we didn't take out even all that was budgeted.
But we still have all those dollars from the redevelopment agency sitting on the books.
They are in the
That-
reserve.
And we can't use that money for anything else but.
So there's the successor housing agency, which is a separate fund and a separate entity. That still exists.
Right.
So it's the general successor agency that funded some other projects here in town that are not. That's
what's
no
been- that's what's been
longer
shut
existent.
down.
Yeah, that's what's been shut down. The good news on the budget for '26 is I think we did a pretty good job of budgeting our expenditures. We think on June 30th, we're going to be about 90,000 out of budget on expenses on roughly $6 million. I think we're going to end up about 90K out. And the way that's going to do is we under budgeted a number of things. One of those is overtime by about 200,000. We think that's what the number is going to be by the time we get to June 30th. That's all in the police department. We're under budgeted in gas and electricity. We thought we would see some greater savings, frankly, on gas and electricity, and those haven't come to fruition. So we're 30K overspent. We're going to be 30K, we think, overspent by the time we get to June 30. And the same with water charges from Contra Costa Water District. We think we're about 83K over budgeted on that one. And then that's got to be, though, netted against $133,000 in salary savings, salary and benefit savings that we've been able to not expend, and then about $87,000 in various services that we haven't incurred. We think those are where we're, again, that's where we're going to end up at June 30th with those kinds of savings. So all that nets out to 90. So if we go back, one of the things if you go back to the prior slide with the chart again now, so we tried to make the math work, and let me do it better than I did it last time, is that the city council made a couple of adjustments after we adjusted the budget, and those are represented in the second data column under 26 adjusted. The $230,000 was the added costs of the Civic Plus contract at 165, plus $80,000 for the engineering services contract that we had to extend when we were not successful in hiring a public works director. So those were both things that we daylighted in council meetings. When you take that and then have the basically $590,000 impact from being slightly over budget on expenditures and the $500,000 in lost revenue, plus these two transactions for the software, for the website enhancement and the engineering contract. That's how we get to the $820,000 delta. We're hoping for better, but this is our best estimate. Again, as Brian said, very often monthly bills are kind of rinse and repeat with payroll numbers, but those are all a little bit in flux as well. So, question, let me stop at the end of 26 and see if there's questions before I go to 27.
I only have two concerns in your explanation. Number one is that the RDA stuff is one time. So that should have been segregated a bit more for a one-time function like your IT stuff or equipment or something like that, as opposed to a line operation. Yeah. And you wouldn't have been surprised by it. And you didn't lose all of it, but one way or another, you got to cover $500,000 next year. Right. If it's been put into operations, it sounds like it has. The second one is that the death of every general fund is not charging for services it's rendering and thinking that the general fund is a charity. It destroyed ABAG. They literally, being a big charity to all their special revenue funds and grant funds and everything else, literally ran the place out of money. So the only thing I'd suggest is, one-time revenue should be treated as one-time revenues. You should try and do best you can to match them against one-time expenses, or, like I said, IT replacements or reserves or something. The second thing is, you should find a way, to hit the charges. You can't make there's no sense taking money out of one pocket and putting in the other, but you should book the receivable. You should book the due to, due froms, and then fix the funds. Because you're going to be doing it anyway. So there's no sense of general funds sucking it down when everybody decides that you're a charity now. You can't fix that house anymore.
You sound a lot like somebody else from the council, so I heard.
Would that be, because I've been watching all the meetings, and that we should be presenting things as one time, you know, all the so-called, because some of the adjustments they want to do are one-time, where we're going to do beautification improvements and that sort of thing. And also to just get the public away. I mean, I've already seen online some of the comments that are coming up. Oh my God, you know, that this council's running the city into the ground. And it's like, well, wait a minute. And we know who those folks are, but the point is that this stuff goes on, and those folks couldn't sit here and interpret any of this. You and I had a long conversation, and did $820,000 leave the UBS account? And I believe you gave me an answer, and the answer was no.
No.
Okay, so there's a difference between budgeting and actual cash flow, and you told me that that's the next thing that's coming.
Yep.
So, as Brian pointed out, this is a target, it's an exercise, but this isn't what actually happens. We'd like to get as close to this as possible. So the only concern I have, Dennis, is I've watched you guys working on this for the last, how long have you been here?
Hour and 5 minutes.
No, yeah. How long have the two been here? And I watch.
Trick question.
I watch you pull your hair out. You and I talk pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And
One year.
And I'm always going to ask the same question.
Yeah.
Do you have enough? Do you have the resources to do this? I mean, it's you and Jennifer, and
It's gonna get better, but we'll let the boss talk.
I use this phrase often when I talk about this jurisdiction. We are filled with single points of failure. There's one person in every job. And when that person leaves, there's no backfill. You know who's been the public works director for 9 months? That guy,
very well
and
aware.
this
of
guy.
that. Very well aware of that one.
Okay.
Believe me.
So if he's acting as the public works director, how is he doing his finance job and his HR job and his IT job? Right? We don't have a deep bench. We don't have a bench. And so those create problems. So when you ask, do we have everything that we need? No, we do not.
Then,
But you consolidated positions.
We didn't consolidate positions, we restructured because the old model was completely broken. One position, one full-time position out of 28 was a full-time administrative assistant. We don't need an administrative assistant. We need people to do this. We need people to do
Right.
our events. We need people on the street fixing things. We need oversight in various areas. So we didn't consolidate. We restructured into a model that was sustainable, but we could still get the majority of stuff done. We can't move as quickly as we'd like because what hat are you wearing today? It's a joke
Right.
in the
No,
office.
and
What
that's-
I walk into his office and say, can you put your HR hat on because I have something going on, right? Those are real conversations.
so Chris, where I'm going with this is, would having some accountants, and we asked this last year, remember Dennis, you know, do you need help? And you guys said no, but would having, I mean, the funds are in the reserve. They'd be one-time expenditures. And, you know, these numbers are fluctuating. And like I said, I see you pulling your hair out. We want the public to have confidence in these numbers. That's the most important thing. We're about to ask for more revenue. All right, so we've got to have some confidence in the numbers. I'm not so much concerned, oh, you guys doing a good job. It's, okay, I get it. This guy's doing 3 jobs because we can't hire the person we're trying to hire. Unemployment's 4%. It's hard to hire anyone. But if we need help, then why aren't we asking for it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. It's something that we've discussed over the last couple weeks. As a city manager, it's hard for me to come and say, we have this deficit and I'd like to add to the deficit. That is a very hard thing for me to do. I've never been able to do it in 30 years of public service. I've never been able to do that. I want to be very responsible. Now, to answer the question in a different way, if we get a public works director in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we are in the final stages this week. That job goes away from him so he can rededicate his time to this and not have to worry about our maintenance crews, tree contract, and the litany of other duties.
You just did the sign of the cross, right? Okay, 4 to 6 weeks, okay,
No, I was saying hours. So,
okay?
yeah.
I'm just, look, it's asking, guys. I talked to both of you enough, and I see this stuff. I see the numbers. You know, I'm at every budget and audit meeting, and for the last, as long as I've been, you know, doing this, you know, with all the finance people that just haven't been able to straighten it out. I know that Dennis, he knows what he's doing, but I also know that he's only got so much time. And yeah, we may be in the hole, but it's only going to get worse if we're not sure about the numbers. And that's my biggest concern right now, is that that the city can deliver numbers where the public has confidence. So,
That's part of our job here. When you talk about one-time expenses, it seems to me like there's always more one-time expenses coming. And so using and consuming the reserves that we have to cover one-time expenses seems short-sighted to me. And being one person short because you're not deep seems like it's, again, a one-time expense of just always, how many years have we been waiting for refilling one position on this staff here? It's been 5 years at least.
Yeah.
So it just, it's one step forward and 2 steps back.
Well, and I think that's why we've really proffered this idea of additional revenue as the key to that, because you are correct, Howard. Once you spend a one-time dollar, it's no longer available for the other thing, whatever that thing is later on. And even if it is way more than our policy prescribes, it will go very quickly. And there will always be another need to be fulfilled. That is absolutely guaranteed in all my years of doing this. Nobody ever said, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I got enough." No, I haven't heard that from a single department head ever. And so I think, so I agree. So I think that's why that revenue piece, in whatever form, and we provided the council with a variety of options to consider, and they've chosen one plus renewing the LMD as kind of the path forward to having this be sustainable.
We recommended that.
And you recommended that just after you all heard it. So I think, you know, we're making the right steps. Now we need the voters to do that, and that's where I think, you know, the chair's perspective about having the numbers be as tight as possible as a way to build confidence in the public that this is, we're not chasing, you know, over about fairy dust here. I mean, this is like real. This is the difference in this community being able to address the environment around us, to keep us safe and protected in fire season, for example. I mean, it's about funding police services at a level that this community doesn't just, it's not about an expectation here. It's not like we're having, you know, 4 cops on duty. We are as bare bone as we can get. And I don't even like to describe
Preaching
it.
to the choir here.
Yeah,
Dennis.
yeah, and I
think we
appreciate
all
that.
agree.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And
The
as you
consi-
know, you guys have gone grocery shopping. You've put gas in your car. That hits your home economy hard. Imagine that as a city economy where we're fueling vehicles and we have to replace all of this equipment and the costs continue to rise. You know, we're crossing our fingers as we go out to bid in a couple of months for our paving project. What is the cost of asphalt and all of this going to be because of the world situation? These are real problems that we don't have a simple solution to. And for a community like Clayton, I've said this many times, Clayton wants to remain Clayton, and I'm happy to help do that. That means, where are these extra revenues coming from as costs continue to rise faster than revenues rise? We're not bringing in and I use this all the time, the Amazon distribution center for point of sale, or a Target, or a Home Depot. This community doesn't want it. I would never bring that to the table and say, I have your silver bullet. So how do we combat the rising costs of just operation? This isn't gravy. This is operation. This is bare bones. We saw what happened with just our contract with the city of Concord around 911 dispatch and tech services with them. It went up, this year was, the first year was over 10%.
It was
I believe.
almost 15. Almost 15%.
And it's going to, it's not going down. It's never going backwards. It's going to rise. What is our other option? Contract with another city? Maybe, but is it going to be cheaper?
So my question for you, Chris, is, are we too late on this sales tax request? Because I saw the county has in the package that they want to raise sales tax of 0.625%. And we know that there's only one until we get to the ceiling. Do we have to go to the state to get approval to get our sales tax?
It's all the other way around right now.
No.
We do not.
We do not.
We do not.
We do not have to go to the state to get that. They're going to have to go to the state.
They will have to
Why
go.
are they going to have to go to the state?
Because
We
they've
don't have-
already exhausted their transaction use tax. They're the 0.625 to support social services and healthcare. Whoops, I didn't do that. They've already expended that, so they're going to have to go get a legislative fix in order to do that. We do not. We have not spent our 1% yet.
Okay, I feel better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have confirmed that with our attorney, so.
All right.
So I
We go
just
to 27 now?
yeah. Can we move to 27?
But can I
go ahead.
say something real
Yeah,
quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to reemphasize. One, I am a firm believer that one-time expenses are the reason for the reserves. Because reserves cannot accommodate, except for in emergency situations, ongoing operations. Believe me, of all the people in Clayton, I am completely sympathetic to what it takes to run the books of an operation. And while I think what's that dumb, this penny wise, pound foolish? I don't really understand what it means because I grew up in Burbank, but there's some things you can do only so much of, and then after that you risk a lot of things you're risking the dollars for the pennies. Yeah. I won't get into that. This is not a discussion that every city hasn't had in one time, except probably Walnut Creek, who just seems to have more money than God. But not getting to the other one, I am a firm believer if the part of your budget policy, when you adopt it, next time, it should be very clearly stated, one-time expenditures should be matched and taken out of reserves. Second thing should be, you should also do that, set up some schedulable replacements for your IT equipment and your fixed asset equipment. Now, you have a reserve for it, so that a good way to say is that is another thing. Yeah. Don't put that in your operating budget in the future because it skews it.
Yeah, we actually have that, just so you know, to reassure you. We do have a separate fund, the SURF fund,
yeah.
that has.
$2.5 million bucks?
That, 9 something, yeah. 900,000.
You have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You have a lot of funds for us 28 employees.
Sure.
You have
Yes.
more funds than you have employees.
Yes.
And then the last
Way
point of
too
it
many
is,
funds.
you're going to have to deal with this revenue issue, and not revenue, but expense. And again, you're not alone. And right now, I got very seriously close to buying an electric vehicle because I really hated paying $100 to fill my car. On the other
I'll vouch
hand,
for it.
my friend's wife got an electric vehicle, and it's costing $100 to charge it. So I figured I'd stick with gas for now. But we're going to face an economy, and as the economy shifts this year, that is another reason for the reserve. That's what they're for, to get you through what you couldn't predict when you went into the budget, but you've got to have a plan for it next year, because the best you can do with this kind of an operation is say, get me through 18 to 24 months. After that, you better have a new plan.
Yep.
And that is the reason, in all the reserves and all the things we set up in all the agencies I worked for, Our job was, my feeling was my job was to keep you secure for 36 months. And after that, we had to have a new plan because you can't go past your hard deck. In your case, it's probably about $5 million. In our case, it was closer to 500 million. But you just don't want to get past where you can't keep your contracts going, your salaries and benefits going, and keeping people paid. And that's predictable, you can see it, and anyway, that's what I was.
Yeah.
We'll have this discussion again, I don't doubt it. Can we fix it tomorrow? Nope. But if anyway you want to buy
Yeah.
a tank of gas for my wife's car, I'm cool with that.
And, well, there was a loud scream in our office earlier this afternoon, and it was because Jennifer had posted the amount of our monthly gasoline bill. I won't tell you what the number was. She yelled.
Diesel,
No, not diesel.
not diesel.
Nope. We only have one diesel vehicle, but all the rest are gas. And the PD vehicles and all combined. And there was a rather loud noise about that. And that's exactly the kind of thing. I mean, to your point, Brian, is there are these things that are unpredictable, unknowable, and so you have those funds as your backstop,
Yep.
and your ability to continue operations for that 18 to 36 months if you have to. But you can't do all of it, but you're going to try to figure out where those places are. So I think what we tried to do in 27, and here's to kind of start. First thing we did is if you go back in the Wayback Machine, when the budget was adopted for 27 a year ago at this time, we had a $670,000 deficit at that time. The first thing that we did was we worked to cut that in half. So the very first thing we did was to cut and drop that down to about $345,000 deficit.
Give me an
Right.
example of what you did to do that. What got cut?
So I think a number of things where we've already begun to, so that we talked about the 90,000, for example, in IT services that are no longer going to be in the budget. They were built into 27, but now we could back those out because we got a more economical way of doing that. So when you look at it kind of on net, if you get down to what we were adopted and what we're planning on doing for 27 with the adjusted budget, is decreasing some of our salaries and benefits by $170,000. And part of that is the continuing legacy of the restructuring that Chris mentioned earlier. We changed a whole bunch of positions around and held the line on salaries and benefits for our employees. People are getting a raise, but they're not getting very large raises.
I thought on net, that was about a $50,000 a year savings.
Yeah.
Because they moved into higher level positions that got a higher base pay, but there was one less position, as I recall it, and I could have it wrong.
Are you talking about in maintenance or were you,
No, I'm talking about
just overall?
administrative.
Yeah, administratively, yeah, we did
You took money out of
consolidate.
consultants that were going to be used
Yes.
to backfill the weaknesses of having people do many different jobs.
Yeah, and I think that continues to play forward into 27. So we do have the salary savings, but we are having some more expenses, and that's because the contracts are getting to be more expensive, and this is one of those challenges is labor, cost of fuel, cost of everything, just to do the services and supplies that we have here in the city, those are just becoming more expensive. And so I think in the recommended adjusted budget, I think we're getting closer to getting that number correct and consistent. So I think, for the extra $600,000 we're going to spend in services and supplies, I think that really does kind of get things into the right perspective in terms of our expenditures. What then ended up happening is the council wanted to spend some money on some one-time expenses because we had some needs. And so we presented a whole series of one-time options. And if you go to slide 7 in the deck, They're listed there and kind of a order with what the approximate costs are. And these are things that kind of came from a variety of places, but they include kind of way out there stuff like expanding the number of baseball fields and to additional, new firearms, tactical gear, and computer equipment to put another police vehicle into service that doesn't have its computer system built in. So we looked at what were the various possibilities of where we could take those funds from. Again, trying to live out the virtue that Brian was suggesting, which is to try to use those one-time funds for these one-time purposes. And I think we did that pretty successfully on all of these. Many of them we're taking out of CIP, where we're putting the funds from the reserves into the CIP because they are actually CapEx type projects, they're capital expenditures. So we're moving them into the CIP, giving them their own project number so that we could track those expenses very specifically and be able to report that back later on to the council and to the public about how we were using those funds for exactly that purpose and not for something else.
Would that, I was surprised not to see the fix of the creek in here.
That is already funded separately by FEMA, and so we don't need to dedicate any reserve funds for that.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, you estimated that the cost to fix that was going to be 400-some
Right.
thousand. A couple of years later, FEMA funds that.
Yeah.
Those funds come in.
Right.
How do they get booked? Are they in reserves?
They're in
Because you've got-
reserves.
They're in cash?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're in
so-
reserves.
Okay.
Yes.
They're in reserves, but they're not allocated to a purpose on a liability side.
In the CIP, now, see, how we treat the CIP is a little differently. So they are assigned as the revenue source for that CIP project of the trail and creek restoration.
So they're in the CIP and they're not shown as revenues.
They're shown as revenues for the project within the CIP, which is different from the general fund operating budget, which is what we're talking
Okay,
about
It
here.
doesn't hit the general fund at all.
Correct.
Okay, I get it.
And that was expressly requested, that we didn't see a big bubble
Okay,
as we bring, if we were to
Okay.
bring all the money into the general fund into operations, it would show this bubble.
yeah. That's a
And we don't
good
want to do
answer.
that.
And then transfer it out.
And
Yeah.
the only question then becomes, is that enough money to get the job done?
Well, so we have that particular project in engineering right now, and
then
we
we'll know.
will know that shortly.
Okay, I know I've mentioned this before, I keep bringing it up, but now it never hit revenues, it went into CIP, that takes care of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And, there's things like the GIS system, which we don't have, which is, kind of absolutely required in any organization today. Be able to know where your infrastructure is, especially if it's buried. We don't. We don't. Might be good to know that sometimes. Emergency operations plan hasn't been updated since 2018. We don't have one here, and so to spend $60K out of a grant, a public safety grant, to be able to fund
Is that like
that.
an emergency evacuation plan?
It actually, it's no and yes. So emergency operation plans are typically how the internal organization transforms itself in an emergency to be able to respond to an emergency, a local emergency. It probably will have annexes like, here's a place that's be higher risk, and here's what those residents might have to think about. It might have a separate section on that. So it's a pretty prescribed model. FEMA and ICS and all the pieces, all these acronyms that there won't be a test on, really do prescribe a lot of what the elements of an emergency operation plan are. We just need somebody to write it so we can get it operationalized, get it practiced, and so we drill on that. So I think it's a good investment. But the city council liked a bunch of these that are on here, liked all these, and so then that's what got built back into the budget after we had reduced the deficit. That's what got built in, and at this point, it looks like with the adjusted budget, we'd be spending about $1.16, $1.17 $1,000 or $1 million, pardon me, $1 million in reserve funding in order to balance the budget in '27.
All these things listed here come out to about 800,000. And then there's the 820 reserve use for the balancing the budget in '26, and then another 341, that's probably where your 1.7 is coming from, so
Right.
that's the
Right.
depletion of the reserves.
Right. And we put in 28 in there as a deficit also, simply because by the time we actually start collecting the revenue from any potentially voter-approved tax measure,
Yep.
it's going to be the spring of 28. So, questions?
Yeah, Dennis, with some of these one-time items, do you also take in consideration the ongoing, like, for example, the ball fields? There's a big expenditure to expand them, but then you have more maintenance going forward.
Yeah. Chris, you want to talk?
Sure.
Yeah.
So like with that specific project, it's not creating land that's not already utilized. So it's currently grass, it's currently being watered, it's currently being mowed, fertilized, everything. In my opinion, it'll actually reduce some costs because we're already treating it as a play field for soccer or a variety of other activities. We'll be removing some irrigation to create the infield, the base path and home plate. So you could make the argument that we're actually going to use less water on a regular basis in that area because you don't water the dirt. So I don't see a huge difference. If we were creating a brand-new field, 100% yes. But since this is already grass play area, it's negligible either way.
What about fixing the irrigation system going up to the middle school up there?
Are you talking about community park?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a much bigger project, and we need to really look at getting somebody in here who can help us with the irrigation.
Shouldn't there be something in the reserve funding that's allocated to the scale of that project?
I think where it really frankly belongs is in the CIP, and so that it gets a thorough project description so that we can actually estimate it. Doing it in this process here, most of these are things that are super tangible, super knowable. They're easy for a council to do. I completely agree it's a need, but it should be in the CIP. And we ought to treat it that way and write an adequate project description so we don't have wasted money and we focus on it. So I would say that would be a great job for our new public works director to begin to develop out a plan for that gets added to the CIP.
I think that's a good example of a good use of reserves. That's really kind of like a one-time expense.
Well, and it's a one-time expense that is something that should save us money in the long run with our water usage, our breakages, and our staff time, because we are constantly up there fixing water line breaks. So,
Exactly.
that would show a benefit over time. And the way I look at it too, on the maintenance side, every time that I've got two guys up there digging dirt to fix a break, that's X hours that they're not out doing tree trimming, mowing, edging, storm gutter, whatever, right? So it's
It could be an expensive fix.
oh, it will be.
It will be. Yeah.
I wouldn't even guess the number right now.
Yeah. Agreed. But again, more to the point about why it belongs in a CIP, where you're triaging it against all your other projects, where you're identifying funding sources that are going to work. You might even be doing some cost comparisons to determine whether or not we ought to turf the thing versus put in a new sprinkler system and have natural grass. All those things get weighed out in that
Pest
analysis.
management up there, isn't that a big deal too? The ground squirrels, they're just, that's heaven for them.
Yeah. They are happy.
Okay, so on that note, that to be determined.
To be determined, yeah.
Couple of things, the expense fixing here and the expense fixing up there.
Yeah. And I think, just all in all, just to summarize where we're looking at 27, when we think about the reserves that we do have on hand, that, in 26, at the end of the year, I think we're going to end up with about 6.14 million still in reserves, even after the 820,000. And our policy would say that we should have 2.28
Which is 40% of
revenue,
revenue.
40% of
And
revenue.
if you're in deficit, that's a smaller number
Right.
than it would be if it was a percent of expenses.
Right.
And if we've got a $7 million burn on expenses, it should be 2.8.
Yeah, well, and again, keep in mind that a bunch of those are not in the general fund because we're keeping them in the CIPs. We're using reserves for those. And so if you're using one-time reserves for those one-time costs, especially the CapEx costs, you don't have to factor those into it because you're not spending it on the expenditure. It's not showing up on the expenditure side in that way.
It seems to me, though, in communicating with the community, these big potential expenses going to CIP, if you were allocating reserves to CIP, it would show that we don't really have as much reserves as it sounds like we have.
And again, I think the council took, a while to look through these, review these, make some decisions. There were a bunch of stuff that kind of fell by the wayside in the middle of this process as well. If you go back a couple meetings with the council, you'll see that iterative process of yes, this, maybe not so much that. There are going to be projects in the CIP, and I think if they decided to program more money there would be room. I think it's going to be a balance always for those one-time funds, and I guess that's kind of the cautionary tale of how do we assign it and prescribe it in a way that it's super clear, the public understands, we see it, you see the money being dedicated, and then you see the result in the real world, I think is the kind of dynamic we want to set up here for. And again, we could quibble about what the exact ending number for the reserve policy balance is, but the clear indication is we've got more than twice what we're required to have in any year, however you want to calculate it. With the one time in, with the one time out, it's an adequate reserve going forward. The other thing, and I don't know if I've said this to this group, I did say to the council recently, I've never been in an organization, it's my fifth one, that has a reserve policy at 40% of revenue. That is unheard ofly high, just to be very clear. 8% is what I've operated with in most of my jurisdictions. 1 month operating.
20% is the highest I've worked.
20,
20,
25.
20.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And yet you told me, but you told me in a discussion
Yeah.
that you had never been in any agency.
this
mean,
is-
it's
I have.
Yeah.
well, you have.
With the projects you run, absolutely. I mean, that's,
Look, guys, I mean,
yeah.
reserves aren't just something, I mean, look, I was 6'5" before they started using up the reserves when I was at MTC. I like, the discussion's great. I don't disagree with a lot. I will tell you this, though. You can't predict the economy of the future. I don't know if you budget full salaries and benefits, but if you don't know what you're contracted for, you can't measure it, you can't predict it. The other thing is, you can't meet your, cash flow is everything. You put $5 million into CIP contracts, and now next thing you know, you're cutting contracts and paying contractors every 30 days, and you've cut your cash flow down to $2.5 million. Well, you got $7 million going out in operating, and you got suddenly cash flow. So cash flow is everything in our business, and you can't look at your reserve and say, oh, gee, it only needs to be. I never operated in a place that didn't have 1 year of general fund reserve and reserve. Now, it wasn't true for our capital projects. They're budgeted to the nickel. It wasn't true of special revenue funds. They're budgeted to the nickel. But the general fund always had 1 year of reserve, and it had 6 months of cash, always liquid, because well, again, in my line of work, you couldn't tell the engineers, they can't, you got to slow your project down. You're bringing in a piece from China, would you just hold it back for a minute? And, but you can't underestimate, even at this level, the need for cash flow. You go to $2.5 million as your reserve, you're talking about, let's see, what do you, $8 million, or you need $1 million, it's $750,000, $800,000 a month just to meet payroll.
Well, and your revenues are backloaded and your expenses are front-loaded.
Well, sales
So,
tax is
that's-
monthly, and,
Yeah.
and property taxes are predictable. You're not on a teeter plan, right?
No.
Okay, so,
No.
yeah, so they're predictable. The rest of it, there's certain charges and fees, things like that. It's like 20% of it or something. You can run a schedule around those. I'm just saying, the revenue's reasonably small, but you gotta be able to run your revenue to make sure you've got the cash flow to do what you're doing. You get into big capital projects, take $5 million out of your reserve, which is decision everybody can make, but then you gotta have the cash flow to do it, because you do not have the cash flow coming in every month
Right.
to run $8 million.
Right.
And so even I had to round up that one on the back of an envelope.
Well, and to be honest, that's why on the agenda for this group, for our next meeting, is to talk about a cash flow plan for this organization, because I completely agree with you. Part of our challenge here is being able to manage some of these large projects that are going to need to happen at some point now or in the near future. And how do we manage that with the cash that we have coming in and the timing in which we have it? So that's why it's on the agenda for next time to begin to talk that through. And I can't think of a better group of people, frankly, to have that conversation with than this group.
And general law in the state of California says you cannot let a contract you do not have the means to satisfy. That doesn't mean you have to have all the cash today.
Right.
Yeah,
But
that's
you have
what
to have
cash
a way
flows
to
are
get the
everything.
can. Yeah.
You have to have the means.
Yeah.
And so, anyway,
Yep.
that's
I
my.
have one other question that I want to get out before we finish up here.
I haven't seen you in 4 months and you want to leave?
Yeah,
Oh, I saw you yesterday.
that was enough.
That's what your wife said.
The 2026 paving project on this CIP project is $2.5 million. And I don't see the money in Huda and RMRA and these, where's that money coming from?
It's coming from Measure J, Huda, and RMRA. It'll be sourced from all those funds. I'm hoping, knocking on a plastic table, sorry, not the same thing, that, the expenditures are in that, because the engineering estimate I have in hand is at 2.5. And so
I didn't
that hasn't
think we
even gone
had
to bid yet.
The
Yeah.
balances.
That's going to be a tough.
The balances weren't there when we were looking at the balances.
Yeah,
of
those
Huda
balances
and-
change, Howard, all the time. When you look at those balances you looked at
Yeah.
were from June 30th of 2025.
Okay.
A year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so especially gas tax
I think
money,
the
all that
Huda's
stuff is,
700,000 a year,
sounds about right.
and the RMRA,
Six,
okay, that's 1.3,
yeah.
and the Measure J.
We have the money, Howard.
Okay.
We're okay. We're okay with that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm much more reassured now than I was when I
And
got here
remember,
today.
this is an every other year, so we're taking 2 years' worth of revenue to put towards a project.
Right, okay,
Yep,
okay.
yeah. So,
Good.
yeah. But this is exactly the kinds of things that we're having to think and talk about on a regular basis, try to balance these interests, and also just recognizing that while we've got this one-time funds now, we're going to spend a chunk of it, and then that doesn't come back. We don't get another chance to do this. The other risk here is burning those all the way to the ground and then having to go for a tax measure is super, super frightening to me. Super
We
frightening.
may not get the sales tax in this election.
We may not, and that
There's
will,
4 items for taxes coming in.
that will be,
Then
it'll
all
be
this stuff
very
blows
difficult.
up.
Yeah. There will be tough choices to make in the city in the first year without that tax. I can promise you that. It'll be some serious decisions to be made. And if the LMD doesn't pass,
Oh, well,
then those serious decisions are
It's over.
that day.
It's over.
Yeah, the next morning on November 4th or whatever it is, the decisions need to start getting made because this community cannot exist without that funding.
Yeah,
And so it
1.4 million?
1.4
I'd rather
million.
push that level of, that funding source than push sales taxes and other things.
Yeah.
Too damned unpredictable.
That's the one that's critical.
Yep.
Out of everything, it's, that one has to pass.
So agree. That's all the items I have, Chair. If you have anything
All right,
else.
so, all right, with that,
Aren't you gonna ask for public comments?
with all the people we
God, I
have
crack
here.
myself up.
One at a time now.
So at 7:45 PM, this meeting is now adjourned.
All right. Yeah, long day for you guys.
What?
There are a lot of people.